welcome to How to Contribute. Today we are talking to Ben Lesh about RxJS. Hi, Ben.
It's true. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
All right.
Are you excited, Ben?
Yeah. I think that this is a good, there's plenty of room for minor contributions to RxJS, but the most important difference between RxJS and like some other projects like Angular is we've got like a lower barrier to entry as far as like actually submitting a PR.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I love your perspective on that.
Well, if you're looking at like Angular or React, and if they're corporately run, and you have to, like actually sign documents and things like that. So.
Oh, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
I've never had to sign a document for Angular. I don't think though. I mean,
yeah. But if you want to contribute there, you have to. There's like
I've submitted a PR and didn't have to sign any documents.
There's a thing called Mary Poppins, which was this bot that would come around and yell at you if you didn't sign their, I forget, some agreement that basically states that you're not going to sue them if something goes bad.
Yeah.
Because of your PR.
I do remember having to do that for React, but I don't feel like I ever did it for Angular, but I don't know. Anyways. Okay, wait, tell us who you are and what is your relation to RxJS?
I am Ben Lesh, and what do I do? On RxJS, I am the project lead, so to speak. So I do a lot of the development. I lead discussions around it, but yeah, it's kind of steer the project a bit.
Okay, and how did you start contributing to RxJS?
Well, I was harassed into doing so. No, like
this is how
a long
you get
time
into
ago.
open source people.
Yeah, well, so the way I got into it was I was asked to work on a rewrite while I was working at Netflix. And the reason I was asked was because I had experience contributing to other open source projects and open sourcing my own project, or like a component library that was for Ember, while I was at Netflix. So because I had that experience, Netflix tapped me to work in RxJS, and I told them I was not qualified, and here I am.
You know what's so funny is like Ember, like that's God. Do you remember going to Ember conferences together? Like me, you, and Jit. It's just like I can't even. It seems like forever ago, forever and ever.
Yes.
I remember when
Ember is another project with probably a lower barrier to entry to contribute than say Angular or React because of the not corporate. I don't know that for a fact. I haven't contributed to them in a while, but
yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, Ember is so amazing because you can do like the add-ons, for example. So, okay. Well, can you give us a little tour of the repo and like how to navigate it and what we should be looking for, and maybe like share a little bit about like the easiest places to contribute to?
Sure. Let me share my window here.
Ember. Wait, when you would go to EmberConf, remember that one conference? What was it called? Wicked Good Ember. Did you talk about RxJS?
I think I was just an attendee at that one.
No, you spoke.
Did I really?
Oh, maybe you didn't.
I think I was there. Like I spoke at a few Ember meetups, but
I just remember taking a picture of you.
I was there. I did.
And Jay was helping with the sound check issues. I remember.
Right. I actually remember I missed like a third of the entire thing because I had a meeting with people about how I should work on RxJS.
And you did that like on the island, or you like?
Yeah.
Okay, so where are we?
All right. So if you go to GitHub reactivex/RxJS, you can come in here. I'm going to show you like two ways to contribute, really. So this is the main repository, and there's things that you should look for in any repository. One is a code of conduct. The other is contributing. So very, very important to, like, if you don't know what a code of conduct is, the long and short of it is, don't be a jerk, but it's more specific than that. And you can read about some of that. So please look at that. And you have to adhere to that. Otherwise, you're going to get in trouble. Don't be bad. And then there's a contributing guide. And a lot of, we actually kind of copied this a long time ago from Angular. And like the real important thing that you like, I really want to show here is we've got this commit message format. So this is probably the only thing that makes it a mildly complicated. And generally speaking, if people don't adhere to this, I fix it for them before I merge. But basically what this is a lot of projects have like, oh, you would type in some like feature and then here's the new feature or fix and here's what the bug fix is and so on and so forth. And we use this to generate our changelog. So like if we end up merging your PR, then your commit message is actually used to generate the changelog that we show here. If I'll show you the changelog looks like.
Ooh, that's so nice.
So that's how all of this is generated, and it's been generated for a very long time, right? So that's an important bit.
Okay.
Now,
changelog is so great. I mean, everybody has a changelog markdown file typically, right, on most projects.
Usually. And if you have a project yourself, I recommend doing that. We use a project called conventional changelog CLI, and actually use it at work for stuff as well, just because it's convenient. It was originally designed for Angular. So one of the templates is like the Angular template, which is what we use, but it's not Angular specific at all. So that's the basics. So you want to check this out. I think this is a little dated, but the important thing is that you understand that there's commit message guidelines. If we look at some of the pull requests, like you'll see the names even like, so this is saying, oh, I'm fixing from event. And
oh my God,
I'm inferring,
that PR that I submitted the other day did not have like the right commit messages.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. Because whenever I go and I merge one of them, what I do is I can change the actual commit message right then and there.
Yeah.
Because we usually squash them before we merge them. So,
but don't do that, folks. Just help Ben do some paperwork.
Yeah. And all right. So another thing that I'd like to just tell people about, if you're doing open source in general, like some people will come and they'll be like, oh, look, I'm going to go in here and they're going to look in like under insights or something. And you can see the contributors, and the contributors are listed by the number of commits. And they think to themselves like, ooh, if I can just add more commits to this repository, I'll get higher in this list. Don't do that. For one, a lot of projects like Angular, RxJS, they're going to take all your commits and squish them anyways into like a single commit for your PR, or maybe just down to 1 or 2 commits, right? They'll try to flatten them down a little bit. And realistically, it's like these stats are kind of silly. Like you can kind of see who's the most active is probably the most interesting bit, as you can look and see like, Andre is way up here, but he hasn't been active for years in this, right? So the activity is more interesting. And I mean, there's also things people like, oh, I've added this many lines of code. Well, I've also removed this many lines of code. If you look at these numbers, I've actually deleted more of RxJS than I've written, right? So, so is OJ. That's funny, but yeah, there's OJ. You all write the code, and OJ and I are just actively deleting it. But yeah, so the real thing, if you ever go to look at this stuff in any project, is you kind of want to look at like, if you want to see who's the most recently active people, just highlight the end and be like, oh, here's some people that have been very active lately.
Cool. I like that. Yeah.
So
tell us a little bit more about the repo. Like, what do we look at? Where's the easy places to contribute?
Okay, so the easiest place to contribute, honestly, is generally to the documentation. But like to talk about the structure of our repository, we've got everything that is RxJS is written under source. And in particular, most of the logic is under source internal. And we do this because when we export, we kind of want to flag to people that, hey, you don't want to access stuff that's in here. yeah, so this is, you've got all of the operators are underneath this. It's like a huge long list of operators. All of this observable is all like what we would call our creation functions, like fork join and from event, those sorts of things. It's fun to go in here and explore. Some people don't realize this also, but if you're in GitHub and you're on something, you just hit the T key. It'll give you a way to search. So you can go in here and search for the actual file names, right? So you can see that we've got specs under the spec directory and observable here. Let's go back. So all of our tests are under spec, right? And they're kind of, it's a somewhat of a mirror of what's under source, source internal, really, for all our operator tests and such are under here. And then the other bit that we have that's of interest is we have Dts Lint Tests. And these tests are just to make sure that we are getting the proper types out of things, right? So we have this, it'll be like, oh, of foo, and then we're testing pipe. And if you pass pipe no arguments, then we expect to have this. So this is how we make sure that we're not breaking types for people when we're making changes to our type system. So those are kind of important bits. So if you were going to go in and let's say you wanted to have a PR that added some new flag or something to one of the operators, you probably want to come into the DTS lint test for it and just make sure that your flag, if it's being used, is like outputting the proper type. So that's one thing you'd want to do. You'd also want to, of course, go in and add tests for it under the actual specs, which are, again, back here. So you go under spec.
But I mean, you're not asking people, like, if somebody's just going to randomly contribute a PR, you're not, I mean, it's not likely for somebody just to come in and YOLO.
Yeah. It's so
where do we find, like, I can say, like, Ben, let me get, like, okay, like, now I know how to, like, let's say add a new operator, but like, what do you actually want me to do?
So if you go under here, we have different labels. And one of our labels is help wanted. And I would be a little wary of the older ones, but like, I know this has been gone through lately. However, like some of these, like before you dive in, check to make sure it's not already fixed. If it's already fixed, please do at me on it or something, and I'll see if I can get in and close it. Or even DM me on Twitter is the easiest way to get a hold of me. But like, go in and look at these sorts of things. I think then this one might be done. Make sure that there's no assignee, because if there's an assignee,
if there's an assignee, does that mean? Oh my God, is that me?
Yeah, you're assigned to this one.
Oh God. I feel like we should just close that issue. I mean, that is so old.
What's funny is we don't want to close the issue. We actually talk about this from time to time.
Wow.
In our meetings, which you don't attend.
2017.
Right.
I set up the meetings, but I don't attend them. Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. You're the owner, and I can't add other people, and I should probably just set up the meetings.
You can add people.
But yes. So if you go and you look at these things, there is a PR linked for this one. So like, it looks like there's not a ton of these. Like we've had some really active people lately that have kind of come in and polished off some of these things, but generally speaking, this is a good place to look. Another thing,
but like, do people just like, it's like, okay, there's no assignee, so you can just have at it? Like what? Like,
yeah, well, I mean, if you see there's an assignee, I wouldn't try to tackle it because someone.
So what if you just like randomly? But I can just go in there and assign myself to everything.
You cannot. Someone else, whoever owns it, can assign themselves. Oh, you can, because you're a contributor. Yeah. But
got it.
The average person can't come in and just assign themselves to
things. Let's look at migrate to ES Lint. Can you open that one? This Quan OJ one. OJ Quan one. Yeah. So I would like to take this up.
Yeah. So here's somebody that offered to do that. And let's see. We've got. This is a fix add migration from TS Lint to ES Lint. And this one got closed. Let's see why it got closed.
Oh, it did get closed.
So this one, so he started something and there's some back and forth and he decided he would close it and try another attempt. And it doesn't look like he got around to it, which is fine.
Okay.
I don't blame him at all. But yeah, so
so this is still open.
Yeah, generally speaking, this one's still open. And this is open primarily because it's not like a super huge priority for us to get to it. It would be great if we could do something like that, but I tend to be more focused on the actual code output type stuff, and this is like kind of an internal tooling sort of thing. Another thing you can do, if you look under issues, you can kind of see which ones have been filed lately. Because those are ones that are like not likely to have gotten a lot of attention. See, there's like no comments in some of these.
Yeah.
You can go in and you can it's technically contributing. If you want to like get that little green icon or the green box for the day to go in and comment. Now I'm not saying go comment spam.
Oh my
RxJS
God.
issues,
I am comment spamming from now on.
Yeah. So it's silly but true. You can do that.
I'm just gonna go open up all the like open PRs and just do LGTM. I reviewed this.
So like here's no one that I know this happens from time to time. There's a test case that like randomly fails and or doesn't fail. So I think for now it's been commented out, but it'd be good to go back and check that one out. I might put help wanted on that one because it's one of those things where it's like
yeah, so like fine help wanted, but it actually doesn't seem like you guys keep up with help wanted much. It's like,
well, it's hard. So there's a difference. So one of the differences between like there's open source projects that have like small businesses behind them or small full-time organizations behind them or large businesses behind them that like spend a lot of time going through all these and going through all the pull requests and
why aren't all of them help wanted is my question.
I mean, they are all technically help wanted, but that little label there is like one to try to draw more attention to something. Like technically all of these are help wanted, right? Like I wouldn't not take help.
So we don't use the good first issue
for any of these.
We don't use good first issue.
No, I just have help wanted. It's yeah. I mean, the best first issues, let me show you another way to contribute to RxJS really quick. So if you go in here and you're like rxjs.dev and you're like, okay, I'm going to look at the overview, and you can go through and you can look at some of these things. What people don't realize is that if you're looking at some of the docs, so like pairwise, for example, groups, pairs of consecutive emissions together. And like, I could be like, oh, I don't really like the word emissions because that's kind of strange. So I could come in here and I can hit that button. I don't know if people saw what I did, but you can hit this suggested edits button. And you can go in here and be like, oh, okay, well, this is where the documentation comes from. And I can say groups, pairs of consecutive values emitted by the source.
You mean if you want to improve the documentation?
Yeah. Right. So you can go in here, and then as soon as you're done, you go in here and say, okay, describe your change. This is for the docs for pairwise. I'm just going to say just demoing. Editing. No. Editing. I don't know why I would try to put two T's in there.
You're just trying to get a PR in there to get your green for the day.
Give me the green. GitHubs. So, and I can say commit. You cannot do this. You would not be able to commit directly to the master branch. I could.
Oh my God, don't.
Yeah, yours would come in here like Ben Lesh patch 1, and you would say propose changes. And when you do that, then it would create a PR just like that. So that's a really, really easy way to help us.
Does that even fork it though for you? It doesn't fork it. It just
no. It actually just adds. In my case, it adds a new branch here. But for other people, if someone is a non-contributor to this repository, it would actually fork it for them and all of that good stuff.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good.
That's a good way.
That's like, I mean, that's like one of the easiest ways to contribute to documentation that I've seen.
That is by far the easy. And like, we get a lot of complaints about like, I actually am not a huge fan of the way that some of this is laid out, right? Like the very first page, it's kind of like, oh, well, so like our documentation needs help. And we just don't have a lot of time to really own it and go through all this stuff. Like we've got efforts, like for example, we need to go through, and there might even be a PR for this already, but we need to go through, and this needs to just say RxJS now because we're moving away from importing from RxJS/operators, right? So there's just lots and lots and lots of stuff. If you see a broken link or like anything like that, you should be able to just go and fix some of these things. Now, the actual introduction, so if you're going to try to fix some of that, those things like if you're looking at the actual operators, when you look at the operators, it's easy because they have these. When you're looking at like the overviews, they don't have those edit buttons. Maybe you could add the edit buttons. That could be a good PR. I would appreciate that. But those, you have to go in here and they're under the actual code, which is under docs app content, right? And it's going to be one of these in here. So maybe guide. Yeah.
Okay. So in the issues, should people like ask before they pick up or what? Or should they just like, they see issues and they can just like start?
Because our crew tends to not be like super active. Like I check maybe once every few days on this stuff. The main thing you want to do is you want to go and you want to make sure, like you see some issue that you want to do, make sure that there's not already, a PR for it. Make sure that it's not already been assigned to somebody. And then the other thing to do is like, when you're looking at it, so this was already got a PR related to it. When you're looking at it, make sure that, go through the existing PRs. There's only usually about 30 of them, 36 in this case. Go through and just make sure that none of these look like one that is trying to cover what you're doing. You can even search, whatever you're trying to do. Like if you're going to do one for pairwise, be like, oh, is there any of these with pairwise? And it's like, no. Or the other, actually, this is a good example. So I search for pairwise. It's a decent idea to look at the closed ones too, just to make sure that it hasn't already been fixed and just the issue isn't already open. And then by all means, go and create your PR. Make sure to include, fixes, like you would type in like, fixes # whatever the PR number is in your commit message. And then it'll actually link your PR to the issue, right? And then that gives us a little bit more of an idea when we see the PR that, oh, this person's trying to fix an issue that actually is an issue. Because what we don't want is...
Well, what if I like submitted an issue and I was like, add the Ben Lesh operator. And somebody's like, I'll take that on. And then there's a PR.
And we don't really want new Ben Lesh operators, right? So, right. With RxJS in particular, I would say we are so feature rich already that most new features are going to be shot down. I've even had new features that I wanted to add shot down, right? So I would say that like there's probably not a ton of room for new features. What there is room for is improvements for like our infrastructure, like fixes to our documentation. Like that's a lot of what needs to be done right now. Those are super important contribution points. The other thing that's really good to contribute to is like just like documentation out in the world. Like if somebody goes here and they're like, I don't understand RxJS. I mean, I'm probably going to get articles that like.
I like that.
So like, there's a lot of these articles, and like, look, like if someone's like RxJS concat map, right? Like the top one this is Brian Tronconi made this site about doing this. Then you see our documentation, and then there's other stuff, and like you could be at the top of one of these things. People are going to click here, and they're going to be like, oh, who did this? And they might be able to see like your name or like a video of you talking like this. These things are important, and you don't need us to promote this. Like people aren't going to like use me like Google. Like every now and then people will be like, hey, can you promote my blog or whatever? It's like, no, dude, like just put it out there and someone's going to find it. And it's super important to the community to have these sorts of things out there, because just because we've explained it one way in our documentation, or maybe I've explained it in my own blog or something, doesn't mean that's the best explanation for the next person that comes along, right? Like everyone learns differently. So it's important to have lots of different ways to talk about these things out there.
Yeah. Well, I think one of my last questions is like, do you have core team meetings? Can anyone attend? Where do they attend? Where's the notes? Where can we find it on YouTube?
So we have core team meetings. They are closed. Like we occasionally, if someone is contributing something a lot, or there's some real heavy, like in-depth thing, we'll invite folks to it. They happen once every other week on Wednesdays. It's kind of an odd time because we have a contributor in Australia and contributors in Europe. So we have to kind of balance that out. So like those meetings are generally closed. We don't really record them or anything like that. And what we do is I'll go through, we have these things labeled like agenda item. And so I'm doing a search here, sorry. And we'll go through all the agenda items during the meeting. And these are closed too. So we want to be like, is open, is that right? So open agenda items. And we'll go through and it'll be like, oh, okay, this is some issue or whatever. And then this one, I believe, has been up for a while, and we'll be like, after some discussion. So these are just discussion notes from the core team meeting. Meeting, Angular has a workaround for this. So generally what ends up happening is we discuss whatever it is. Sometimes we leave it as an agenda item, so we discuss it again next time, and then we leave a comment about it somewhere. So that's the most interaction that people are really going to see from our core team meetings. And
we stopped doing core team meeting notes, right? We used to do that.
Yeah, it just no one was really reading them necessarily, and we weren't really going back to them.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of work to get in there. And some of the discussion too is we have partners at Google that are kind of the guinea pigs, if you will, for various RxJS features, and they report back to us about certain things, and it's all about trying to keep everything stable for people. In particular, they care obviously about Angular users. So there's some of that stuff is not necessarily stuff that they would want out in public, I'm imagining, but also some of it's just chit chat and catching up with our friends.
Yeah.
With that.
Okay, well, I love that. Thank you so much for giving us a little walkthrough. I'm definitely inspired after this. I'm like, oh man, now you guys need more help with the docs. I felt like that project was like a little bit done, but like it seems like, I mean, especially with RxJS 7 and like some of the stuff, I know I've been seeing a lot of PRs come in to like update the RxJS 7 docs and stuff like that, or update the docs to RxJS 7. So and I love some of your advice on like just going out and reviewing external articles or Stack Overflow in the community. I think that's kind of amazing too. And it's kind of good to know that like y'all are chill. Like from an issues perspective and how to like research that and not, not like sit there waiting for you to like respond to something. So that's kind of nice too.
Right. Also with this particular project, if I'm the only one who merges things, generally speaking. And so if someone has something, it's been reviewed and approved by another core team member, it's not merged, you can ping me directly, Twitter DM, I'll get it. I'll see it. But like just in general, RxJS is kind of a slow moving thing because we have so many people that depend on us that we're not like really antsy to just like, here's a new feature and here's a new feature and here's like, the next major version and all this stuff. Like we try to move slowly because we don't want people to get fatigued on updating big
you're
projects.
Like TC39? Just kidding.
No, we try to actually add features people want.
Oh, dig.
That's mean. No, there's good people. What I was going to say is, sometimes if you want to get your feet wet with contributions, open source contributions, sometimes like really popular things like Lodash or RxJS or React or Svelte or Vue or any of these things, like sometimes these, especially things that are more mature, like Lodash and RxJS and jQuery, especially like there's not as much room for contributions in those, and getting like, there's so much, like if you just went here and you're like, I want to look at, I don't know, Facebook React, right? If I went to look at Facebook React, like they've got 241 pull requests, 600, like that's a lot. If I go look at like Angular, it was even more for this. Yeah. Look, one point, it's like a 1,700 issues, 139 pull requests. Like the odds that someone's going to see your thing here are really, really low, right? Like where if you go and you look at someone's, let's see, RxJS 408, like someone's smaller project, like here, 6 pull requests, right? Like it's much more likely that people, maybe not me because my GitHub notifications are trash, but that people on smaller projects are going to see your pull request, merge your pull request, and deploy the latest quickly, right? But yeah, it's one of those. It's just one of those things where I would recommend, if there's like a small utility package that you use and you think, oh, I can make this better, or there's this thing that's really annoying about this library that I could make better, the types aren't quite right or whatever, and I can fix this, I would really recommend going and attempting there first, just to get your feet wet with open source contribution. But I will say this too, like a lot of these, I should probably put, I don't have a code of conduct on these, so a lot of these smaller ones might not have a code of conduct. You don't know who you're dealing with. But you should
still be nice to people.
You're right. You should still be nice to people. And I'm just saying that like whoever the maintainer is,
maybe they want you to add a code of conduct.
Right. But maybe they do.
Well, you're kind of a jerk, so I get that.
Yes, I am.
Unless you're doing RxJS.
This guy's stuff, he's just bad. But yeah.
Well, thank you so much again. Everyone, you can follow Ben on Twitter at Ben Lesh. Thanks everyone for listening to How to Contribute to RxJS, and we hope to see some contributions soon.